Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the Daily D20, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. And I like damaging spells as much as the next guy. I like casting out a good fireball or firebolt here and there, but I also do enjoy the smaller, quieter moments when I get to use some utility spells to protect me or the party and help out in the game. So today I'm counting down my top 5 favorite utility spells. Let me know your 5 favorite in the comments below. First on my list is Tiny Hut. Not to be confused with Leomund's Tiny Hut, this one's a little different. It's available to more people. While Leomund's Tiny Hut is available to bards and wizards, the Tiny Hut itself is available to bards, wizards, eldritch knights, and arcane tricksters. So it has a little more utility in that aspect because it's available to more players. So what is Tiny Hut? Well, it's a 3rd level evocation spell that basically you take a minute, you cast it, and it creates a magical dome over your position, and you and up to 9 creatures can fit inside this thing. The dome is a 10-foot radius, so it's a pretty good size, enough space for plenty of people to sleep in if you need to, and nothing can pass through it except for the creatures who were inside the dome when you created it. They're able to pass through the barrier that is formed by the dome. Anything outside the dome that you don't want in won't be able to reach you because of this magical barrier. Also, any spells that are cast from outside trying to get into the dome and from inside the dome trying to get out are nullified by the wall. The hut lasts for 8 hours, and inside is a nice comfortable dryness no matter what the weather is doing outside. So this thing has best utility when you're in a less than hospitable location and you need to take a long rest and regenerate some of your health and spells and such. You can throw up a tiny hut and you'll be good to go for at least 8 hours. The next spell on my list is Purify Food and Drink, and this is a 1st level spell available to clerics, druids, and paladins, and it's pretty straightforward. You take a food or drink item, you cast this spell, and it removes any sort of poison that might be in that thing. It's a great spell to have if you're having dinner with someone that you don't really want to be around and you think they might try to poison you. The downside of it though is it does take a verbal and somatic component, so you can't cast this Purify Food and Drink spell quietly. You have to say something and move your hands. So be careful with that if you're dealing with an NPC that might get easily offended if you try to purify the food that they've given you. They might think that you don't trust them and there could be a whole mess there. But even so, as a utility spell, being able to unpoison something is extremely useful. The 3rd great utility spell on the list is Arcane Lock. Now this isn't like a door, but it does lock the door that you need it to. It is a 2nd level abjuration available to wizards and artificers, which is more of a playtesting class. But basically you cast this spell, you're able to lock a door magically until you dispel the spell or something dispels the spell on its own. It doesn't wear out after any length of time, so you can lock a door indefinitely with this spell. When you use Arcane Lock, you're able to designate creatures that can use the door as normal, and they will be the only ones able to open the door that you need to. Everyone else will be locked out until the spell is ended. Of course, that would be a little too overpowered if there weren't a way to get past it, and in this case you could dispel the lock, or someone could dispel the lock if they had that ability. They could also break the lock, but the twist on that is trying to break the lock or the door that is locked adds an extra 10 onto the difficulty challenge of that task. So if you encountered a door that would normally be a 15 difficulty challenge to break and it had an arcane lock on it, it would actually take a roll of 25 or higher to break it. So it really beefs up the security of the location. This is really great if you need to stay at an inn or somewhere where it's a little sketchy and you don't trust everyone, or if you're just in a room in some castle or in a dungeon and it has a door and you want to lock it to keep out people so they can't come in and get you. This is a really great option that you can use to protect yourself and your party. The 4th spell on my list is actually kind of fun. I just like the imagery of it, and it's called Tiny Servant. Basically, it's a 3rd level transmutation spell available to wizards, and all you do is kind of touch a tiny object that is not attached to anything else, and it grows arms and legs, and for the next 8 hours it will do what you say. You can command it to do some simple tasks, and you can actually cast this spell multiple times to create multiple tiny servants if you would like. There is actually a tiny servant stat block you can use to determine hit points and life expectancy of this creature, but in all, it lasts for about 8 hours, and it just gives you a little tiny helper to go around with you and help do some simple things for you. And the last one on my list is one of those spells that has a very specific purpose, but it would feel terrible to leave home without it, and it's called Featherfall. It's a first level spell available to bards, sorcerers, and wizards, so not everyone can get this thing. Essentially, this thing can be cast as a reaction, so it doesn't take any time to cast it, and you can pick up to 5 creatures within your range who are also falling, and basically it slows you down to a decent speed, so when you hit the ground, if you hit the ground while this spell is still active, you won't take any damage. The downside of this, and this is what I want you to think about as a player and as a GM, is this has a lot of little different rules involved in it. The speed of descent of Featherfall is 60 feet per turn, so that is something to keep in mind also, that just because you cast Featherfall, if you're falling from a high enough place, it might run out. The spell also only lasts for 1 minute, so there's that also. If you're falling for more than a minute, the spell will probably run out. And if you fall at a slower speed, it's going to take you more time to fall to reach the bottom of your destination. So it's some kind of a balancing act you got to do with the math and finagling, and of course it's up to the GM discretion how this is used. But all in all, I mean, it's a really good, useful spell. If you get knocked off a cliff or knocked off a building or something, you can easily cast this and save yourself and your party with some nice feather falling. So what are your favorite utility spells? Let me know that in the comments below. If you want some more great spellcasting information, go ahead and click this playlist over here. And if you want to know some of the best wizard cantrips in the game, go ahead and click this video over here. And of course, I've been Richard Quiner. Thanks for watching.